Awesome. Cool. Thanks, everybody. Cool. We've got a bit to chat about today. But to start off, just wanted to let y'all know again that Viteconf is coming. We just had to send all our talks in, so I think everybody's done. Fred, of course, lucked out and doesn't need to send a video in. He'll be on the frameworks panel, but my talk's on Islands Architecture and Astro. Ben's is not explicitly Astro, but it is about islands. And Dan's is about Feet for Education. So if you haven't gotten your virtual ticket, definitely check it out. Sign up here. Get a cool little ticket. Pick your Astro or whatever logo you want. Wait, can I do two? Awesome. So yeah, check out Viteconf. As a reminder, we have our Q4 roadmap here. If you're curious what we're working on, you can check out this discussion is pinned. We go into a bit of the background and some other additional things that we would really like to tackle, but would love some help on, or it's probably not going to happen this quarter. But yeah, the biggest things are, in terms of features, per page, static and server mode, automatic fetch caching, better testing support, and Astro Glob improvements. Matthew has been doing an awesome job with stability, and we're just kind of modularizing and cleaning up the code base. Hoping to get down to 0 OpenHMR issues and 0 errors without a clear location. I know Erika has some big plans for the language tools to bring Astro more in line with TSX, which she's actually implemented most of this already. Still working on that compiler migration and some browser and other improvements. And then, yeah, Doc's team is working on some overall improvements. So walkthrough tutorial, we're doing a CMS integration guide set of guides, I guess, and then possibly some Astro swag. So that's all super exciting. Feel free to refer back to that at any time. Wanted to shout out the new support forums. So, all right, sorry for the recursion. We have awesome new support forums. So I'm sure you noticed this. Support is has a new home. So this is really great. We have tags so people can search for stuff. As you are typing, you can see new stuff, which is really great. And yeah, it's pretty awesome. Fuzzy, you got anything to say about this?
Yeah, the forums is pretty much the new look of how we're going to be delivering support for everybody in the community. It's great that Discord managed to get this out. The old support threads has now became the support legacy threads. Now they have been pretty much stopped, so you can't post any new threads there. All the new support issues go into the forums, and any previous discussions that are going will still be going for the next couple of days, preferably a week, and then that will be archived permanently. But you know, those threads are still going to be there in Discord, so you could always go back to check out if you want to find more answers. By all means, guys, just start writing good questions. That's all I'd say with the new support forums, because we could archive this, we could, it's all to help future us, and yeah, I think it's fantastic, and everyone in the support squad loves it as well. So yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, it's a huge improvement. I love our needle bot, and the auto thread thing was really awesome, but it's really great to have official support in Discord for this as well. So that is super exciting.
Oh, it totally is.
Yep. Just checking up on the chat. Hey, Tony. Cool. Chris, are there any docs updates?
Yeah, hey. It's been a relatively quiet week in Docsland, but in Docsland that never means a very quiet week. We've still got all our translators who've been doing amazing jobs. So like Percy, Diego, Augustine, Thomas, Jeremy, and Goshawk, they've all like come in and I don't know, I've lost track of exactly how many PRs we've had, but it's been a bunch. Bunch of Chinese pages updated, as well as our Spanish translators getting to almost complete translation status, which is pretty amazing. So great work from everyone there. We had a really cool contribution from Mayank, where we finally, well, hopefully, we'll see how this goes, but we've long had complaints of people confusing our language switcher and our search bar on Docs. So people like jumped into Docs and like wanted to search the Docs and end up clicking on that instead of the search bar. And Mayank kind of like took various bits of feedback together and put this together. So hopefully now our search bar looks more like a search bar, and people won't do that anymore. But maybe they won't. Maybe they'll just keep doing it, and then we just had fun for nothing. But we're hopeful. So we have that. Also, this is not very visible, but maybe exciting to people here. Astro Docs is now running on Astro V1, which I realized last week it wasn't. So it is now, and the upgrades process was super smooth. So if any of you out there using an RC site still, go update a V1. It should be pretty smooth. And otherwise, we're like continuing. We're really excited also to see the new support forums and to see everything that comes out of that. Reminder, you can always ping docs, team docs in things where you're like, oh, this should be documented. Let us know. We have a pretty good support to PR pipeline going. And if you're interested yourself in like, if you're seeing things come up in support and you want to see those things come up in docs, let us know, or even create an issue. That's helpful for us. Or a PR. We have really detailed contributing guides and writing guides. So if you're not sure how to get started, feel free to ask in the docs channel, but you're also very welcome to check out those guides. Yeah, so keep going. Team Docs is doing great. Thanks, everyone.
That's awesome. Yeah, Erika just called out the Prettier plugin is running on the docs now in GitHub. That's exciting. It's a big step. So this just got merged. Ooh. Pretty well. Yes, that is amazing. Very exciting stuff. And then, yeah, wanted to chat. I think, yeah, Erika is here. So we talked about this a bit last week. I thought it would be great to chat some more and maybe see if we can get this over the line this week. Do you kind of want to introduce this for anybody that was not here last week? Erika cannot talk right now. Okay. That is totally fine. So, this RFC is basically to introduce a new interface called Component, and this would be basically allows a place for JS doc comments for your component. And though this is not an official part of the RFC, making this something one level up potentially in the future allows something like slots, and this would automatically be picked up in the language tools. So that would be very exciting, and basically kind of a pain point right now that we can't document a component like many other tools do. So this would really help with that. And this is what would happen in the compiler, basically. And there were some alternate proposals, like this thing above the front matter. And the reason this was ruled out is because all our syntax highlighting and a lot of tooling around the ecosystem would need to be updated, and that would be really difficult. This has the benefit of no syntax changes, and it just kind of works like you'd expect. Keeps everything isolated to the front matter. And yeah, importantly, this would not be a breaking change. So this would be the documented way to do everything, would be with an interface, but we would still support props. And certainly, you could combine these with the component interface as well.
When you say documented component, do we mean we just mean like it shows up in the VS Code extension, right?
Yes. Literally, hovering on the component would give you this comment. The same way that it does in React.
Yeah, I wonder if there's any thinking about like if you were creating, let's say you were wanting to create a what do you call those things? Design system site out your component, like, and you have like API pages, like this wouldn't show up there. I'm just trying to think if there's any way to really make that happen, but
this would at least open up the possibility that we could integrate with those tools in the future, because it is just a JS doc comment. So
sure, that'd be neat.
Yeah, I totally agree. Cool. Are there any comments or concerns on this? I think we had a good discussion last week. Wanted to chat about anything that was here. Just some conversation about slots, which is explicitly not part of this.
We lose comments in the compiler. I think we do, right? We just dump whatever's in the front matter to the JavaScript, right?
It might be some work on the compiler to make sure
we don't lose those.
Yeah, good point.
Because I'm thinking a lot of tools will operate on JavaScript and you'll have to compile it first, but really sure.
Right. I think there's usually ways you can preserve them in most tools. That's a good point, though. If this is exported, we would also need to hoist the comment up. But I think that's an implementation detail, and overall, this is a good idea, in my opinion. But yes, that's a good call out.
Yeah, it'd definitely be nice to have this in here. I could see this being really useful for like our image integration, for example, because it exposes two kind of tricky components as far as what prop types are supported and when you need to add width and height and that kind of stuff. Adding these kind of comments really make that a nicer DX.
Yeah. Yeah, great question. If props would be deprecated in V2, I'm not sure. This RFC doesn't explicitly say we're deprecating it, just that this would be an additional way to do it. But if that's the plan, maybe this should be part of this RFC in the adoption strategy. Maybe it is already. Document it, replacing our current interface props. Yeah. So I guess it would be backwards compatible, but yeah, we don't really mention that. I would say it's not deprecated yet until the other thing stabilizes, and then we can cross that bridge when we get there. Several people are typing. Yeah, deprecated V2, remove in V3 approach. Cool.
I don't know if we really need to deprecate it. It seems this is more verbose, which, you know, obviously is necessary if you want to if your primary thing is documenting the component, but you just want to provide types. I don't know. This is not a huge burden to write this, but I guess I'm on the fence about whether we should even deprecate the other or just have.
Yeah. I think as long as it's easy to maintain both, I imagine, especially for tooling, right? Like if it becomes a real chore keeping the VS Code plugin to deal with both types of setups, maybe then we consider deprecating. But that'd be the main reason, I think.
Yeah,
I'm cool with that. Yeah. More thinking like removing it, like deprecate it, but like, is it worth removing if it breaks stuff?
Right. Yeah, I do think explicitly called out here is that we would document the component interface as the way to document your component, right? But I don't think there would be any breaking implications. Cool. Just waiting for your comments in the chat. Cool. Any more comments about this RFC in particular? Otherwise, yeah, if there are no objections, I'd love to move forward. Looking for consensus from I guess that's the TSC are the folks that can officially do that. But general vibe check, everybody's cool with this. Cool. Sounds like no objections. Thank you for the vibe check, y'all. Awesome. I'm gonna say this is accepted. Erika, I will leave it up to you to put any final details in here. Probably call out that we're not like removing anything, and yeah, I think that's good to merge when you feel like it's ready. Do we even have an approved tag? Accepted. There you go. Awesome. Cool. Then we are really blasting through the agenda here. This will be a very fun one though. Matthew, I wanted to chat about your experiment. We can also, I know you have some RFCs. Do you feel like either of these are worth talking about again? I feel like there haven't been a lot of comments on them. Do you want to get any eyes on either of these?
Oh, I mean, I would love to have comments, but I am not trying to merge them today. So
okay, cool.
yeah, if you want cookie stuff, seems like the safest. I mean, I think they're both pretty safe, but yeah, if anybody wants either of those things, please do comment.
Yeah, that would be very helpful. But yeah, you also opened up this really interesting discussion over the weekend about persistent islands.
Oh yeah, okay. You want to talk about this one, huh?
We don't have to. I just thought it was exciting.
Yeah. I mean, this is very much just an experiment, proof of concept thing. But I was thinking a lot about the. I don't like calling it this spa mode.
Yeah.
The reason why I don't like calling it that is because uh, it makes it sound like it's like a binary, either you're an MPA or the spa. And I like the idea of blending the two the same way that we blend um, server rendered components with client rendered components. Um, I think I think that's kind of fits with Astro's mantra to some degree, is that you use things when you need it and not all the time. So the idea here is that MPA mode is Astro. Astro is an MPA framework, but there are times when you have some components that you want to persist to keep alive on page navigation. A perfect example of this is like a video. If you were developing like a YouTube kind of website, you'd want the video to keep running as the user navigated between pages. So the idea is here is that you have those types of components in the same way that you tag them to be client rendered with the client directives, that we would have some other type of directive. I called it navigation persist here, but whatever. Naming is hard. You'd have some type of directive that we would tag, and that component would persist on page navigation, provided that the next page has it, of course. So if you go from like page 1 to page 2, if that header is in both of those pages, it retains the previous header while passing in any new props that the header was giving. So it does update. It is able to change to reflect the change state of the page navigation, but it is the same instance. And because of that, because it's the same instance, you can do stuff like have everyone's debating the directive name. But because it is the same instance, you can do stuff like animations very easily just by storing some state within it. So yeah, that's really the idea. Is like, is not to have like a config option spa true, but rather just to mark up the pieces, the components that you want to persist. And the components, I kind of mostly focused on client ones, why they're called persistent islands, but I see no reason why this wouldn't work for Astro components as well. It's really just a piece of DOM that we persist. So, anyways, yeah. So yeah, that's really it. Is yeah, and this there at the bottom. This really had me more thinking about. I'm almost more excited about this, to be honest. Is server islands. Server islands were an idea that someone in our community came up with quite a while ago, actually. But the idea there is that, like, you kind of the same way that we have client islands, is that you would have server islands. So instead of thinking about server side rendering as like you're rendering the entire page all the time, a server island would be like, well, this component needs to render on the server, but maybe the other parts of the page do not. Completely different subject. Maybe I shouldn't even be talking about it, but it's I thought about it because it is the same idea where like you mark a particular component as needing this. So anyways, yeah, and then I made a really ugly demo to show
so
off.
Beautiful.
Just to show off that it does. Yeah, then you go back and it goes back, and that's really just the component is retained what page it's on, and it animates. So
things.
So if it was like a framework component with a piece of state inside, the state would say the same across pages too?
Yes.
It re-renders with new props when it navigates, but it it's the same instance of the component. So it will be the same.
Cool.
Yeah, I played around with implement. We don't need to talk about this, but I think that's something we should investigate is how all these things can be implemented in kind of the most minimal way. Like I know you experimented a little bit, Nate, but there's like the TurboLinks way, which I believe TurboLinks like actually DOM diffs, if I'm correct.
Mhm.
And there's like that's the same thing that React Server Components does, I believe, or will do, I should say, because I believe it kind of diffs using its own theme format, but similarly. So that's a very obvious way. I went another way just because conceptually it's like instead of like diffing the old page to the new page, since we're really saying that these are the only things that are persistent, we can just swap out the entire page for the new page, but just bring over the persistent parts. I don't know if that's the right implementation, but it was just kind of a fun way and very, very small, simple amount of code. It literally just parses the new document, moves over the persistent islands to their proper place in the new document, and then swaps it, and then restores a focus. So, anyways, that's a side note, but I'd love to talk about that. To be able to do script use persist, I don't know. I thought about scripts and stuff. I think scripts don't matter, right? Because like you can't undo a script. Like you remove a script tag, the JavaScript is already ran. Like you can't, it doesn't remove the JavaScript. As long as something is referenced, as long as it's in memory, it's in memory. But yeah, I thought about that too. I don't know.
You know, if there'd be some kind of weird corner cases where like a component is lazy loading a JavaScript dependency, like only gets parsed and executed once you click on it or something. If you've changed pages and that script has now been removed, I don't know how we'd handle that. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think that's why.
No, it wouldn't though, but right, because if that script set up an event handler, like listen on click, remove the script, that event handler is still it's too late. Like it doesn't undo the JavaScript. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's true. But if you brought in a new page and you didn't have if you didn't put use persist on that, it would rerun the script and add another listener, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking
so
of like
there's 100%. There's 100%. There are definitely corner cases and stuff. All these ideas, I'm sure of it.
Hence why it has not happened so far. But yeah, I think it's a very cool idea. And the server partial HTML partials idea gets me really excited. I think there's a lot of good stuff here.
Yeah, I like that this keeps coming back up because there are a million different questions for how like client navigation type of stuff will work in Astro. And I'm glad we haven't committed to a solution yet, but I'm also excited that like this is a bit of a different take on what we've looked at before. So it's cool that we're just poking all the different edges to see how stuff would work.
Yep, totally agree.
Cool.
Awesome. What are the next steps for this, Matthew? I know if you check out our Q4 roadmap, this is not necessarily on here, but it is something that we said we're really excited about and we want to look at. Is there a bit of a call to action here for anybody that wants to see this?
No, not really. I just threw out the idea, and I thought, if people are like, "Yes, this is amazing. Let's stop everything we're doing, and just do it right now," then I guess there would be a call to action. But aside from that, I guess we can just keep talking about it.
Matt, this is amazing.
At some,
Let's do it.
I think. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just saying this is amazing. Let's do it.
I think the call to action is just, at some point we have to decide if we want to do this kind of thing. Not necessarily this, but I think maybe the call to action is, I don't know, at some point in the not super long future, is we just need to make a choice. Like, do we just want to be MPA forever, or do we want to have a blended way? Because if we make the decision, we're like, yeah, we want to do something, then we'll be forced to pick. If that makes sense. Yeah, that's all.
Cool. Yeah, I think that makes total sense. Yeah, this is definitely exciting. I think clearly getting some love in the chat. Yeah, something we're thinking about a lot. we can fix him. HTML, I mean.
Yeah. It's HTML, that's fine.
Nice. Cool. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to start that conversation. So definitely weigh in on this issue. I think that would be really awesome to get more eyes and thoughts on this in terms of implementation and like what you would actually want to see out of this. Will definitely help how we move forward with this proposal. Awesome. Where'd it go? Sweet. That is what I had on the list, but I was expecting more conversation. So we chatted a bit about this. I don't know if Kyle is here, or is anyone here that wants to chat about any of theirs. I think this might be a good one to chat about. So, oh, they put it all in the oh, did they just copy and paste? Okay. Cool. Awesome. So this is kind of a question about MDX or a proposal for MDX components that you could kind of pass them through your layout. You need to import and export them, which is frustrating. And they would basically like to be able to pass them in to the component.
So that much is usually supported.
I was gonna say, isn't this already possible?
That can be done.
I believe this is possible already.
I think the RFC is saying that this is not, that they're not happy with this.
Yeah,
Okay.
saying that is possible
Understanding, yeah.
today as a workaround, but you need like a custom router page, and so you lose the profile routing and stuff.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I misunderstood the RFC. Okay, so exporting components from the layout, which seems like a natural place. Interesting. Yup, I totally see what they're saying. Layout components.
What's the number on this one?
What do you mean?
this a discussion or a PR?
This is a PR.
When is it?
Is 285.
Okay.
Not a PR to the repo though. They say they don't know how to implement it, which is fair.
No, yeah, it's a RFC. I think. Okay, so they're basically asking, can you export components from the layout, and then that would just magically be hooked up. MDX specific feature.
I'm a little confused by it because I see that they're exporting this components from the layout.
Mm-hmm.
This I don't see the components being used though. Like, where is that components used?
This would be passed to the MDX content, is what they're saying.
And the idea is that it would automatically use that component whenever you use an H1. But the problem with this, in my eyes, and I think they wrote that, is that like layouts are used for all sorts of things, and it's weird to take like a feature like layouts and have it do a very MDX specific thing.
Yeah, I shared in the chat what maybe would make more sense. Where because we do have a prop utility today called MDX layout props, and you can apply that to your existing props object if you're using something as an MDX layout. And if we passed you a prop that's a setter, and that setter is set components, that could be a little bit more explicit as like, okay, you're writing an MDX layout, then call props.setComponents to wire it up to your MDX page. Instead of it being a top-level magic export, which worries me a bit, because our magic export behavior isn't super consistent. Yeah, yep. I agree that I don't feel great about that. Maybe another API would be better, but the fact you can't do it at all today is definitely a bummer.
Yeah, it seems like a shared context though, more than like this could be genericized out to like some context. I don't know how we would share that context to. I mean, because MDX does this, right? So MDX has, if you have a provider, you can using MDX component. Oops, I was looking for MDX provider. So for other tools, they just have this provider pattern, and you can configure it. So there's an MDX provider. So that would solve this problem, right? If we had a similar pattern in Astro.
Then with astro.props.setComponents, are you saying you could call that from where would you call that to set the MDX components?
From the MDX
here.
layout.
So
okay.
Right.
And it would only be there. So if you had like a layout wrapping around the layout, it would not have access to that. You'd have to pass it down as props.
Then you saw the similar thing, I think, where it's like this sounds agnostic, like props.setComponents, but it's really just referring to an MDX thing.
Yeah, it could be called set MDX components. I'm just thinking about what props are already passed to a layout where we already MDX layouts are already passed raw content, or that's the one thing it isn't passed. It's already passed front matter, it's already passed the content component, it's already passed a default and file and URL. So alongside all of these other props that are passed to MDX layouts, set components would be another one.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. Make use of the fact that layouts are already past MDX specific things. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and we have a TypeScript helper for it already. So if you're using that, then you can see set components and know what it is.
So I'm curious what everyone's kind of take is on these. We were talking about it a bit in the chat, but on this kind of like magic imports. type of a setup. I know early on we kind of tried to avoid that with a lot of Astro stuff, like everything, whether we like it or not, like style sheets were imported in front matter. And I think our goal originally with that was the idea that if it's a magic import, it's really easy to get lost or forget. Like I wanted to render an H1 and it's going through this kind of like sideways path because the layout did something somewhere else. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about this. What's everybody's thoughts on that kind of stuff these days?
I definitely am very hesitant about implicit magic and data flow. I think that's definitely something we've tried to avoid, which we do at the expense of convenience sometimes, where like the like automatic layout, I know people have asked for that a lot, and the reason we never like jumped on that is because like understanding the cascade of that is that another thing you need to keep in your head versus just literally looking at your file. But yes, there are ways to do it, but it's not like a officially like data cascade thing.
If I could chip in there, I think the implicit exports are really bad, especially for new people, I think. It just makes it really hard to find where some specific behavior is coming from, or makes it harder to override some other behaviors. I think it's way more clear to just have explicit imports there so you can see what's going on, where are things coming from. And also for the editors, it's a lot easier to recognize where things are coming from and helps you to jump to the original files.
Yeah, well said. I totally agree. Cool. Yeah, I definitely think there's something here. Like, I don't want to like block this RFC. I think they're exposing a problem, which is totally fair. That like this is not a very fun workaround, and I totally agree with that. But maybe there's another design here of some Astro Context provider like thing that you could pass components to and access that from within. I think that might make a bit more sense, and I think there's actually an RFC right now that kind of goes into that. I think we were also talking about that with this one, HSSR, that we were talking about last week. Like some sort of Astro context came up in that discussion as well. So I think we're starting to see that like this is something really necessary. So that at least is good, and these RFCs are very helpful in that they are exposing the specific problems, and maybe there's like a solution that we can use to tie them all together, such as Astro.context. This is maybe a little different in that it's kind of being used as like a user session, and it's node specific, but I think the idea is really sound. So I'd be very interested in like driving this forward to kind of solve both of those issues.
So would it be like one context object that any file can access, just like one big global context?
It would be, I have no idea because we haven't sat down and designed it out. I can't really say what it would look like, but it seems like sharing. Yeah, so sorry, just catching up on the chat. Context is such an overloaded term. I totally agree. Provide context. Can I provide some context on this? Okay, so if we look at MDX, the way that this is working is there's a component that gets passed. So there's a provider that gets passed all of the components that you want. And then this is basically MDX, the layout is able to read from this components, is basically allowed to read. So now post can read out of this provider. No, Chris, I know you're making a joke. I still think it's very helpful. So yeah, being able to place some data somewhere where children are able to access it is very helpful, not only for something like this, but also translations. Yassine, this whole issue is about translations needing some shared context, like they all have an understanding of it, all components. So that would be very helpful. I think this would benefit from that. This would also benefit from that. And, you know, there were other ideas about this as well. So having like a user or some stateful thing for the request. I'm also using it in Astro Icon, and I'm just like hacking it in. So I think overall we've seen that it's very useful, and people are looking for something like it. So from my perspective, that's kind of the way forward here.
Question: is this like a technique for like storing just general data that the user wants to quickly store? Or does it store like what data are we like sort of expecting it to be able to store? What
Yeah,
types of data?
that's the big question. It's like, what can go here? Can it handle, like, it's probably not serialized. I think it's just in memory. So I think technically anything, like components are just functions. So for this purpose, they would need to be able to store functions, right? Yeah, how does the MDX compiler access that context? Astro is JavaScript, and MDX is also JavaScript, and you can pass objects and functions to other functions.
I don't know, because it's separate from like the component rendering flow. So I'm like, where's this data coming from?
Well, yeah, MDX renders at runtime, right? So it's all in run at the like render time, I'll call it. So if you're doing SSR, yeah, you can use JavaScript to run JavaScript. Deep insights
JS
here.
in JS? Wow.
Yes. What
Actually,
I'm all
what
about
if
these days.
what if we just set it up so you can decide what data you want stored based off an integration?
Yeah,
An
I think that's
integration
kind of
Yeah.
the proposal here. Is like, can other things hook into the context? Which, yes, basically, Express has something very similar to that. I think this is a good idea to explore. But yeah, there's a lot of implications here. But it could be used to expose like Cloudflare, environment, things like that. So I'm pretty excited about that.
So, is this the only plans to have this actually show up on the front end?
If you render it, no, there wouldn't be like an implicit global store on the front end. Yeah, I think that brings up a great point that like context is a very overloaded term, and this is not the same thing as React Context or other tools that have context. So context is maybe not a great name for it. I don't know. Maybe store or signal. Just find the
Like
most
signal.
overloaded term we can. Yeah.
Space pod.
Astro Space Pod. That's it.
Space station.
The airlock.
Yeah, what other space terms can we use here?
What have I done? That's awesome. Great. Cool. Yeah, I think that's probably it. I'd be there's so many suggestions here. Astro Data Dump, Astro Universal, Astro Teleporter, Server Context. There you go. Astro Dumpster Fire. There's so many options. Several people are typing. Front matter. Awesome.
Erika does this.
Cool. Well, I won't take up people's time making jokes about what we should name this non-existent feature. But yes, I agree that context is meaningless and we should call it something else. But I think that would be really exciting for a lot of reasons, and there's a bit of overlap between these if we can figure that out. So if anybody wants to work on that, definitely reach out. I'd be happy to have some discussions about it, see if we can get an RFC together and implement something. Cool. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Chris. I knew I was forgetting something. Github.com. This is a lie, I think, because we are at 19,981. So if anyone in this call has not starred the Astro repository, please go star it. In fact, I'm gonna remove my star and I'm gonna restar it right now. Amazing. We are so close to 20,000. I never thought we were gonna get there. When we launched V1, we had like 10,000. Yes, Ben says, please stroke our ego.
We need those stats.
Yeah, that's super exciting. So yeah, go tweet about it and tell all your friends to go star Astro. Let's see.
I'm pretty certain once this call goes out on YouTube later on the night, that's going to go up.
I know one of you did. One of you hadn't done it, and you just did it. But I see you. Totally kidding. But we do have one more than we did a second ago. Okay, we'll stop watching paint dry. Cool. Thanks, everybody. That's all we've got today. So really appreciate you hanging out. This was super fun. Ben just started Astro for the first time.
I actually didn't. I was shocked.
I think that happened to me a couple
no.
weeks ago too. I realized that I had not done it. Awesome. Yeah, feel free to hang out here if you want. Fuzzy's gonna put some music on, and feel free to hang out and chat, but I've got some work to get back to, so I'm gonna hop off. But thanks, everybody.
Thanks, y'all. Have a good one.